Hello and welcome to another episode of Cooking with Dr. Dewey Stevens. Today we're doing a continuation of our Latin fusion menu. Last time we did a black bean gnocchi and a cilantro cream sauce. Today we're going to be doing a sort of a side dish to that. In the Latin fusion menu, we're going to be doing several different courses. This is one of the courses. It's going to be a Latin infused couscous salad, if you will. So we've got some couscous here and some other ingredients. One of the things I think a common misconception about couscous, particularly the Moroccan style, we're going to be using the pearl couscous, also known as Israeli style couscous, is that it's a grain. It's actually a pasta. It's just a small, very tiny, small pasta. I find it's very good for making salads. So lots of times I'll do a couscous salad. This one I like to use the pearl style because they're a little bit bigger, and I just enjoy the texture, sort of like a almost like a boba salad, if you will. If that sounds a little weird, but it is what it is, right? So we're going to be using pearl style couscous. I've got some water boiling. We're going to get that started here pretty quickly. Otherwise, it's just going to be sort of your typical, I think almost like a pico de gallo with a few extra ingredients. I've got some bell pepper here, some red onion, cilantro, tomatoes, some fresh squeezed lime juice. We're going to make a dressing out of the lime juice. And we're going to kind of mix all those together, come up with a nice little side salad for our menu. So stick with me and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, I've got the water started. While that's going, we're going to go ahead and get started on some of our vegetables. So I like to start with the bell pepper. So cut off the top here. Take out the stem. And with bell peppers, I like to try and cut out all the little the bitter parts. In here is going to be the middle part and some of the ribbing. On the top here, I kind of just nice little cut that part out, just portion them into tinier little pieces here, and then some little strips and just chop here. And for the rest of it, sort of just cut it down the middle. And what I like to do is I'll sort of quarter them. That way I can get to this ribbing. So this, obviously this white ribbing we don't want to eat, there's a lot of bitterness, but there's also a very small layer right on top of the flesh here. And if you can get some of that out, it takes some of the bitterness out, and by virtue that kind of helps highlight some of the fruitiness of the pepper. After all, this is a fruit, right? So what I do is I kind of just lay this flat, make sure your knife is flat. You don't want to be at an angle, and just give it a nice little, doesn't have to be perfect, just trying to get what you can. Sometimes you might get a little more extra, and that's fine. There, and then just do the same. Some nice strips here. Put this into our bowl here. Start with onion. So probably about a quarter of red onion. Water's boiling, so go ahead and put our couscous in. Just follow whatever packaging and directions you have. This couscous calls for a little bit of salt and some olive oil or butter. So I'm going to add that in now. Give it a quick stir. Make sure they don't stick. This also calls to boil for 8 to 10 minutes. I'm gonna go on the lower side of that just because I like my pasta a little al dente. And also, whenever I'm using pasta in a salad, the pasta tends to absorb a lot of the dressing. And so I take advantage of that so that there's some additional flavor in the pasta. And whatever you can do to infuse some more flavor layers, right? Some more flavor into your pasta just makes for a much better dish in my opinion. So, okay, now we're gonna go with a few tomatoes. I like to use cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, any of the small variety tomatoes, just because they make for, my son likes them as snacks, so there's that. But also, you know, sometimes you don't need a whole tomato, and then you have to cut it in half and then save it in the fridge, and then it loses its flavor, or maybe you forget about it. I like to have the smaller tomatoes. Gives you a little bit of flexibility, so you can use just as many tomatoes as you want. So about a cup of tomatoes here or so, and I like to give them a nice little slice, depending on the size of them. Again, I don't like big chunks, even halved. I usually will quarter them, or even more if they're a bigger size. So go ahead and cut all of these. Okay, 2 more tomatoes done. Because we're putting this in a salad, we want to rinse some water over it. Stop the cooking. Add some cilantro. My strategy or my opinion on cilantro, most herbs actually, fresh herbs anyway, is that I don't usually spend a lot of time picking out all the leaves. I'm gonna just do my best to get to the point where I can chop off the majority of the stems, and then the rest of the stems just sort of remain intact. A lot of the flavors in the stems. I have to check on something, and I will be right back. Stop right there. What are you doing? What? No, I wasn't doing anything. No, but seriously, what are you doing? I'm just gonna put this jalapeno in the salad because I like jalapenos and they're spicy and I like spiciness. You know the family doesn't like spicy things. You can't just throw a jalapeno in the salad and call it good. Yeah, but I like spicy. That's what I want to do. Can't we put a little bit in there? Okay, well, maybe we can have a compromise. Maybe there's a way we can have some jalapeno in the salad, but maybe reduce the heat level a little bit. How does that sound? Yeah, we should do that. I like spicy. I like jalapeno. Can we do that? Can we do that? Okay. Now, let me step in and I'll show you what we can do to get some jalapeno in the salad. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay. With that, sometimes my alter ego likes to sneak in some spiciness into dishes, and sometimes I'm better than others at controlling it. So what I'm going to do here is cut off the top, and we're going to use the same method we did before with the bell pepper. Also this time, instead of also just removing the bitterness, we're also removing a lot of the spiciness. So if you cut it in half, sort of, again, do your best to flatten it out. Keep your blade flat. You can cut out not just the seeds and the ribbing, but again, also a lot of that membrane. And this too will have a little fruitiness as well. So again, just not to be perfect, just do your best to flatten it out a little bit. Your blade flat, nice and gently rub it along, don't cut yourself, and that way you can remove a lot of the spiciness and avoid burning your face off. So again, just cut some strips here. If you cut the jalapeno up a little finer than you normally would, helps you avoid getting a big chunk of spice in your bite. So I try to do that. Keep them small. And there we are. Okay, time to make the dressing. I'm going to start with the lime. We'll probably use the majority of lime juice for our acid in the dressing, just because it will heighten the flavor. But when you do, you just have to be sure to counteract that with something a little more sweet. So I've got a couple ideas in mind. Okay, so I've got my lime juice. You can see it's not that much for a dressing anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little, I've got some peach white balsamic vinegar. It's got a nice sweetness to it as well. So I'm going to use that. That'll help counteract some of the lime juice, keep it from being too sour. A little salt. A little pepper, and when I'm making sort of your typical vinaigrette dressing, I usually will throw in like some Italian herb mixture, parsley, oregano, so on. But because this is Latin infusion, I'm going to use Mexican oregano because it's like my favorite, and so yeah, don't judge me. Okay, so I'm gonna mix together. While I drizzle in some olive oil. Okay, I'll just do a little taste. Still a little sour. So I've got my secret ingredient here, which is really just some agave nectar. You have to be careful with agave because it is really, really sweet. You don't want it to overpower. So just a nice little shot of it in there. Also kind of, you know, that mixed with the lime juice makes it like a margarita salad dressing, I guess, if you would, right? Okay. Go ahead and add this to our salad. And I know it looks like a lot. It is for this amount of vegetable, but when we add the couscous is really going to soak up a lot of dressing, especially if you leave this to sit. If you let it sit for a while, helps infuse the flavors, right? But the couscous will absorb a lot of the dressing. Also, so if you're going to be making this and then, you know, maybe you're prepping this and then you're going to eat it tomorrow, I would even make more dressing because as it sits, the couscous will absorb a lot of the dressing, and then you will be left little for vegetables. Also, I like to try and give the vegetables a little an opportunity to marinate, if you will, before we add the couscous, so they can absorb as much flavor as they can before the couscous does their job. So give this a mix. Okay, so we're gonna let this sit for a few minutes while the couscous finishes cooling off. We rinsed it under cold water, right, to stop the cooking and cool it off a little bit, but I just like to give it a little extra time. I don't like to throw warm pasta into a salad. It's just no bueno, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna give it a few minutes and then we'll come back and finish the salad. Did we get the jalapeno in the salad? Did we get it? Yeah. Yes, we got the jalapeno in the salad for you. We took out a lot of the seeds and the ribbing, right? Make sure that it's not too spicy, but there is a whole jalapeno that goes for you. I like the jalapeno. Well, I'm happy you're happy. All right, I think our couscous is about ready. I've been draining it in the sink, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pour it all in. This does need to sit for a little while so that the couscous has an opportunity to absorb some of the dressing. Right now you can see there's a good amount on the bottom kind of just sloshing around. And that's fine, that's what we want because the couscous is a little al dente, it's underdone. And even if it wasn't, it would still absorb a lot. So we want to give it that opportunity because, you know, pasta plain is just kind of blah. So whatever opportunity you can take to infuse some flavor, I think go for it, take it, right? So we're gonna let this sit probably about 30 minutes, stash it in the fridge, and then we'll break it out and we'll finish up the video. Oh, one ingredient I forgot to do, it was sitting there on the side and I totally blanked, is arugula. I like to use arugula in salads, and for two reasons. Number one, it's a green, right? It's healthy-ish, I suppose. But also, it's got a lot of flavor to it. It's got a sort of a spice to it. And so I find that if you can chop that up, you get some green action to your salad, and then and also a little flavor too. So I'm gonna use probably about that much. I don't like to measure, so just give it a nice rough chop. You don't need to mince it, but again, I don't like to have big chunks of things in my salad, so I try to chop it up into something more bite size. Doesn't have to be perfect. Mix it in. Mix that in as well. I'm a bit forgetful today. I've got another ingredient that I forgot. Black beans. Okay, add our black beans too, drained and rinsed. So the combination of all these ingredients obviously will add a little flavor, but I like the colors that it kind of brings together too. The tomatoes obviously being red. I specifically picked an orange pepper because I wanted it to contrast. You could use whatever bell pepper you want, right? Green bell peppers are usually cheap, so you could do that. But I didn't go with red because, you know, the tomatoes are already red. And then with the black beans and the greens, you know, the color of the cilantro and the arugula, just makes for a pretty salad, right? I want to give this an opportunity to absorb some of the flavors, right? So the dressing, I'm gonna stash it in the fridge for a little bit, maybe about 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll serve it with some queso fresco and see how it turns out. Be right back. So I thought we had some queso fresco. I was mistaken because we ran out. But I do have some manchego for the next menu item, or the next recipe on our menu, our Latin fusion menu, which is going to be a smoked salmon and manchego quesadilla, sort of an appetizer. I'm going to use some corn tortillas, so keep an eye out for that coming up on my channel. So if you would please go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing if you like this content. I'm trying to do my best to create some good content for everyone, something a little fun, a little educational, and of course delicious. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes. Go ahead and load up this and spoon some of the salad. And it looks really good. Top it with a little grated manchego. And I've even got some pepitas here, which are just pumpkin seeds, salt and roasted pumpkin seeds. So as you can see, we've got our finished product here, a Latin infused couscous salad with some cheese and manchego cheese and pepitas. You can really use anything, sunflower seeds, or if you have, you know, whatever kind of nut, you could sort of do whatever you want. That's what I kind of like about salads. We kind of have a running joke in our household because with my aunt or my uncle, I forget which one, was ever a fan of what they called kitchen sink salads. You're gonna just throw whatever you got in the fridge into a salad, right? Specific items. And while I do appreciate a specifically crafted salad with, you know, individual ingredients with, you know, very much purpose, I do kind of like a kitchen sink salad. So when I'm making stuff like this, I do have items that are crafted out, but sometimes I find stuff in the cupboard like, oh, that would be good. We're throwing it in there, right? So I want to thank everyone for watching. Keep an eye out for my next video. We're doing a whole series on Latin fusion menu, and I'll share that. I've got a blog going now with some of my recipes and more specific instructions. So thanks again for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.